Hello, my name is Ken Huey with MarketingHunters.com. Jan and Carla, the author of this article, asked me to put together a few videos to kind of explain in more detail and show you some of the issues regarding actually finding a domain name and how you would go about registering a domain name. So this first video, we're actually going to talk a little bit about some strategies as far as recommending the whether or not to go with the .com or .net, and also show you how to find out if your domain name that you're thinking about securing, if it's available, and if it's not available, some alternatives. In some additional follow-on videos, we'll actually step you through the registration process, because in order to get online, get a website online, there's several things that you have to do. The first is, of course, get your domain, and that's what we're talking about in this article, finding the domain and registering the domain. The second part of the equation is actually hosting that domain, getting that website somewhere on a server. That's another piece. So the first step is let's register the domain, and then the next step, we're going to use that domain we've registered and actually point it somewhere to, in effect, to our website. But that'll be a source of a future article or video. So right now I want to show you an example. If I go into Google and we'll take this business here, Featherstone Chiropractic. It's actually a chiropractor. So if someone goes in and they type in the name of your business, then we want your business to show up in the search results. So in this case, in Google, sure enough, we see Featherstone Chiropractic, and they're showing up here in the Google Maps, which is a subject of a number of videos, but I'll tell you, it's very powerful for your small business. But the link below that, Featherstone Chiropractic, and if you notice, the URL here is www.featherstonechiropractic.com. That's what we would like to see for your business. We want to see your URL, your domain showing up at the top of this list if someone looks for your business. Now, getting into the whole SEO, which is another source, and we'll cover that in the months ahead, of how or what you need to do for your business in order to get people to your website. But in this intro video, we're talking about simply getting your primary business domain up there. Now, just so that we're on the same sheet of music here, the actual domain is featherstonechiropractic.com. The www is not part of the domain, so we're just talking featherstonechiropractic.com. Just forget the www part. Let's take another fictitious business here. Let's say that we have a woman entrepreneur. Her name is Jill, and she's also in the chiropractor business. And the name of her business she just opened up is Jill's Chiropractic. So if I'm Jill and I want to get online, ideally I would like to be able to get jillschiropractic.com as my primary website. What the tool I would recommend that you use as far as your research is something that most of you have heard of. It's a domain registrar, and they also host, though I do not recommend them for hosting, but for domain name registration, they're good. I personally have probably close to 100 domains that are registered through GoDaddy, and there's also another one out there called Namecheap, and there's actually probably hundreds out there, but I would recommend GoDaddy or Namecheap. But if you go to GoDaddy.com, you'll get to their homepage here, and there's an area that says Start Your Domain Search here. So in our fictitious business, let's type in Jill's Chiropractic, and I want to see if that's available. And if you notice here in this drop down, it defaults to the .com. When you're looking for your primary business domain, you want to try to get the .com. If the .com's not available but the .net is available, that would be your second choice. There are times that you can use the .org. It doesn't have to be an organization, but for your primary business, if you're not actually an organization, some sort of charitable organization, I would stick with the .com or the .net. I would not go with the .biz. I would stay away from the .info and a bunch of the others. There's some reasons to use some of the others, but for your primary branding, .com and .net. Google looks at these equally, and more importantly, when people think of a business, they think of a .com, and they also have seen the .net enough that they think of .net. So if I go back over here to GoDaddy, I'll put the name of the domain I'm looking to see if it's available. Let's try the .com, and let's click go. Now, what we see here is, sure enough, JillsChiropractic.com is available, which is great. So let's go ahead and get that. If for some reason it wasn't available, it would tell you that it's not available here. And the GoDaddy tool will actually show you if some of the other extensions are available. So if the .com was already taken, I would look down and say, hey, is the .net available? And if it's available, then I'm going to consider scarfing that one up. If neither of those are available, then you get into the trying to see if there's a way to modify the domain name a little bit. For example, maybe if Jill's Chiropractic was taken, I might try Jill's Chiro, short for chiropractic. But what I would definitely encourage you to stay away from is stay away from the dashes. People don't think of, when you tell someone what's your domain name, you say, well, it's jills-chiropractic.com. Later that night or next day or next week, if they're trying to go to your website to find out when you're open or your prices, if they're listed there, they're probably going to forget the dash, and they're going to try to go to Jill's Chiropractic, which might actually be a competitor or in another city. So stay away from dashes. If necessary, you may have to look for a domain name that's not your primary business name, but is more related to the products and services that you offer. And that's fine. In fact, a later video will talk about a strategy where I would encourage you to do that, be very selective on those other domains that you get. But for right now, try to get the .com. If that's not available, try to get the .net. And in the next video, we'll actually step you through how to go through and register using GoDaddy or using Namecheap.